Welcome back, Burger fans, to the Red Phantom Podcast, where we'll be talking everything involving the Arizona Cardinals. This episode will focus on my thoughts and reaction, as well as everyone else's thoughts and reaction about the game against the Chicago Bears, as well as the upcoming game against the New York Jets. So let's jump straight into last week's game. Let me just start off by saying this game was a huge game for the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason I say that is because this game helped solidify the Arizona Cardinals' lead in the NFC West. Because you had the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks play last week, and you had the 49ers on a bye week. So no matter what happened in the game for the Rams and the Seahawks, the Cardinals had to win this game to even be considered in first place. And thankfully, things went our way with the Seattle Seahawks Los Angeles Rams game, because the Rams ended up winning and pushing Seattle back to last and making the Rams tied for second with the 49ers and giving us the lone spot of the NFC West at first. But, man, I mean, this game, I thought going into last week was going to be a really, really close game, but it was not. I mean, it was the absolute opposite of close. And, to start off the game, I thought, it was going to be a close game. Obviously, there's a couple of punts, and the Cardinals don't end up scoring a touchdown until almost the very end of the first quarter off a Trey McBride rushing touchdown, which is something unusual and hilarious at the same time, because McBride has scored a fumble recovery touchdown and a rushing touchdown for 2 of his touchdowns this season, and he has not scored a receiving touchdown yet this season. So with that, we go up 7-0. Bears go down, kick a field goal, make it 7-3. It starts to hail and starts to rain in the Dome Stadium, which is hilarious because, the roof was open just that day and, kind of made a little bit of an issue for players, for fans and stuff like that. But it was a good time. Cardinals go down, get something going. Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up fumbling the ball and the Bears end up recovering. They go down, kick another field goal. Cardinals go and score another touchdown. This time, Trey Benson with his first career rushing touchdown. And, things are rolling pretty quickly for us. Our defense is playing well. Our offense is playing well, running the ball down the Bears' throats, which is, the top scheme of our offense. And with the run game working, obviously, Kyler Murray doesn't need to worry about passing the ball very much. And that's exactly what happens in this game. And you go down, let the Bears score another field goal right before the half. And then out of nowhere, Amari DiMercato runs for a 50-something yard touchdown to end the half with 2 seconds left in the half. And, everyone's talking about that run and how the Bears just weren't expecting it, this and that. And I have to give props to DiMercato because that was a huge, huge run. And just seeing him and how he exploded out of the gate with that run in particular, I mean, that pretty much ended any chance that the Bears had at winning that game. And, we shut out the Bears the rest of the game. The rest of the game, it's punts, turnovers on downs, whatever the case may be. Cardinals kick another field goal, score another one. And then I think to end off all the scoring, we have a safety towards the end of the fourth quarter with DeAndre Swift making a chop block in the end zone. So, of course, the safety goes there. And that pretty much ends this whole game. I mean, 29-9 victory for the Arizona Cardinals. Their third consecutive win in the last 3 games. Obviously, their third back-to-back win since the 2021 season when we were 7-0. And the Cardinals are rolling. I mean, granted, the Bears didn't have a great defensive game without some of their big players. Their offense kind of hurt because they didn't have some of their key offensive players. But for the fact the Cardinals will go out there, get 6 sacks against Caleb Williams with the defense that we've had, the third worst or the worst third down defense in the league. And just for that whole thing to click together and show that there is a lot of fight left in this team and they have the possibility of going to the playoffs. They have the possibility of winning the division. They have the possibility of doing all these amazing things. And, seeing everything click like that, it's been amazing watching the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, many of you guys know, the NFL trade deadline happened this last Tuesday, and one of the big glaring issues of this defense was we needed an edge rusher. So the Cardinals go out there, trade their 6th-round pick to the Denver Broncos for Braun Browning, an outside linebacker who, has a career of 9.5 sacks over the last 4 years, but Honestly, I'm very stoked about this trade. I think he'll fit in well with this defense. I can't wait to see, how he produces with this defense because he is, I would say, one of the more underrated players on that Broncos defense. And, obviously he doesn't get the bright spot, the bright shining spot with how well the defense has been playing, how he hasn't started. He's been injured a little bit, this and that. But I really do feel like he's going to be a great addition for this Arizona Cardinals team. Now, if you look at the stats, obviously, nothing too great with Kyler Murray throwing the ball. I mean, Kyler Murray, 3 for 20 on 154 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, took 3 sacks. I mean, obviously not a great day for Kyler Murray, but you don't really need to throw the ball when your team has 213 rushing yards and your starting running back has 107 of them. I mean, that's impressive in itself. And, of course, of all people not to score a rushing touchdown, James Conner is the one not to score a rushing touchdown. You had Mercado and you had Benson, the running backs that back up James Conner score rushing touchdowns. You had Trey McBride score a rushing touchdown off a 2-yard carry. I mean, it's honestly hilarious that James Conner did not score a touchdown. Offensively, with the passing yards, Trey McBride led the team with 3 catches, 35 yards. Elijah Higgins was behind him with 2 catches for 34 yards, and Marvin Harrison tied that with 2 catches and 34 yards as well. Nothing, too crazy. Our defense kind of did struggle against the pass game. Rome Odunze did go out and have 5 catches for 104 yards. Obviously, his second best career game since the Colts game where he had 113 yards and a touchdown. So the connection is definitely clicking there a little bit better, but Caleb Williams, I mean, he really did not have that great of a game. 22 completions on 41 attempts, 217 yards, 6 sacks, and 45 yards right there. DeAndre Swift obviously didn't produce very well, 16 carries for 51 yards. Roschon Johnson didn't do great, 3 carries for 13 yards. I think one of the biggest surprise with the Chicago Bears is they never really accepted defeat, and I feel like that in time will hurt the Bears. After we saw Caleb Williams limping off the field at the very end of the game from taking all the sacks, from taking all this pressure. I mean, at that point in the game when you're down 20 points and there's so much time left on the clock, you just need to pull your franchise quarterback. You can't risk him getting sacked. You can't risk him getting injured and jeopardizing the future of the franchise just because, you're trying to play for a lost cause. Obviously, Marvin Harrison with his 1 fumble. Kyler Murray had a fumble in the end zone because of a dropped communication with DeMercado. And, turnover at the goal line. Unfortunately, DeAndre Swift has a fumble. Kevin Byard recovered the fumble against Kyler Murray. And, just stuff like that. But Budda Baker, 12 tackles total. 10 solo tackles. I mean, those are some huge, huge numbers from the starting safety for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, you look at the list of all the total tackle leader for the NFL. Right now, Budda Baker is second for total tackles in the NFL at 93. And that is impressive for a safety. And, obviously, for us Cardinal fans, we don't see it as impressive because it's been Budda Baker. But for a safety to lead the NFL or second in NFL with tackles is absolutely insane. Because, you have all these linebackers making plays. You have all these linebackers who are, one of the first to make contacts with running the ball, with passing the ball, whatever the case may be. But for Budda Baker to be that involved with this defense and making plays left and right, he is going to have himself a payday, an extension for the Arizona Cardinals. I hope that Monty does bring him back in free agency along with James Conner just because they have been playing absolutely amazing, and I would hate to see them go, but these are players that you need to bring back for next season to have a successful season. Granted, there's going to be some question with James Conner with Trey Benson and DeMercado in the backfield, but with how James Conner has been producing, I mean, last week I mentioned he was the NFL broken tackle leader at 54, not playing last week, and I can't imagine what the record is now, but he leads the NFL by a large, large margin, and you don't have to move on from that. I think you do bring him back after the season just because he's been that impactful for the team. You go down the list. One of the more amazing things, Xavier Thomas, the rookie linebacker that we drafted earlier this season, who had a really great preseason, came out and had 1.5 sacks this game. 3 total tackles, 2 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, a sack and a half. I mean, for a rookie linebacker to make that appearance in the NFL and to do all of that stuff to, go out there and show that he can be a great depth piece for the Arizona Cardinals in the future. I mean, that's huge. Jesse Luketa has a sack. LJ Collier gets his first sack of the season. Dante Stills continues his streak of 3 games with a sack. Zaven Collins had 2 sacks. I mean, this defense was playing out of its mind against the Chicago Bears. And I absolutely loved watching every second of it because it just was absolutely amazing seeing how everything was clicking offensively, everything was clicking defensively, and just seeing how everything from start to finish was being played like it was, the season on the line. And it was. I mean, to go 4-5 would basically end any chance of the playoffs that we had, especially with how the teams around us in the division are getting healthy. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's back, so there's going to be a lot more attention focused on the 49ers. Puka and Cooper are back from, 2 weeks ago, so that Rams team is going to be playing a lot more, up to date. The Seattle Seahawks, obviously, DK Metcalf is coming back after their bye week. So this this NFC West team is slowly ramping back up to, a very, very competitive division. And I wouldn't be shocked if, the division came down to the very last game this season, like it has in prior years. And that could definitely be something where, if it's the 49ers or the Cardinals and whoever wins the final game of the season goes to the playoff, the other one goes home because they win the division. I mean, that's how close some of these games need to be, and that's how big of an importance, winning this game in particular needs to be. Now, I feel like someone that I have not talked about, but someone that needs to get mentioned on this defense is Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams has been severely underrated by NFL people, by NFL fans. Garrett Williams is one of the best slot corners in the NFL right now. And after watching last week's game, I am so thankful that the Cardinals did not, pass up the opportunity to grab him while he was in the 3rd round, obviously slightly injured from the ACL tear he had back in college. But for them to take a chance on Garrett Williams and say, hey, we see the potential in you, let's see what you've got. And for him to go out there and just absolutely play ball this season, I am so thankful we have him for at least 3 more years with his NFL contract because he has been absolutely spectacular. And, Starling Thomas has been playing amazing after being undrafted. Max Melton is starting to understand his role of being a starting corner in the league. Things are definitely looking up. Obviously, this week, Sean Murphy-Bunting is coming back. Darius Robinson is not coming back from injury this week, unfortunately. I don't know when we're going to get the chance to see him. Baron Browning hopefully should make a huge impact on this defensive line, against this Jets team. So there's a lot of things going on with what the team's developing and stuff like that. Jalen Thompson, unfortunately, issues with him. Didn't sound like he practiced at all this week. James Conner was limited in practice this week, which is another very, very unfortunate thing to have to, witness just because with an injury like that, I mean, our run game obviously, becomes a little bit more of an issue. But, Roy Lopez is playing. Naquan Jones has been playing great. Jonah Williams has been limited practice all week, so maybe we could have our franchise right tackle come back from injury from week 1. LJ Collier, he's been a little bit banged up, so he was limited in practice this week. But obviously, the two big ones are James Conner and Jalen Thompson. Now, do I think Jalen Thompson being out this week against the Jets would be a huge hit? No. I think Dadrion Taylor-Demerson would be a fine fill-in for this week after seeing him play, the preseason, after seeing him play, a couple games this season. I feel like giving him his first start this season, I feel like it would be a chance to see what potential he really has, what potential he has just to unlock. And we've seen him have sparks of talent, sparks of, superstar and stuff like that. And if, Jalen Thompson can't play, unfortunately, this week, I would be okay giving Demerson the start just to see what he has in store. Now, James Conner, on the other hand, that's your big, running back. That's your big, James Conner-like role for the Arizona Cardinals. Losing him, I think, would be a lot more devastating for the Arizona Cardinals. I do think Trey Benson has found his role in this offense a little bit better, but still, losing him would, mess up how the team dynamic is. It would put more pressure on Kyler Murray, it would put more pressure on Trey McBride, and put more pressure on Marvin Harrison going into this game just because, that's how big our run offense is. On the other side, though, it gives Kyler Murray the chance to throw the ball more and to make opportunities when it matters. And we've seen that when Kyler Murray has the ball in his hand. And maybe that's something the Cardinals need for next week or this week against the New York Jets. So let's move on this week to this week's matchup between the New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals. So before we continue on with this week's matchup, we have to go over the injury report. Darius Robinson obviously is not expected to play this week. Many of you guys do know he had a personal issue going on recently in his life. His calf injury also doesn't help out with him playing. Jalen Thompson, perfectly fine Wednesday, limited with an ankle injury Thursday, and he did not practice Friday, so he is questionable going into this week's matchup. I honestly would be okay if Dadrion Taylor-Demerson played this week. I know I said that earlier. I honestly, if Thompson needs a break, give him the break. I'm fine with Rabbit going in there and playing. Jonah Williams was limited all week with a knee injury. Obviously, hasn't played since week 1. So he is also questionable to play. He has not been activated from IR. So if he does play, he'll have to be activated first. That Kelvin Beachum is full practice on Friday. LJ Collier is full practice Friday. James Conner was another unexpected injury on Wednesday with a finger injury. He did practice full on Friday. He is set ready to go. Naquan Jones is ready to play. Roy Lopez is ready to play. And Sean Murphy-Bunting had a full week of practice with his neck injury that held him out the last 2 games. So that is good to see. And for the Jets, we have Jake Hansen, offensive line, who is out for game against the Cardinals. CJ Mosley, the big linebacker for the Jets, is also out this week against the Cardinals. Michael Carter is expected to be back after he did practice Friday. Tyler Conklin is expected to be back with questionable injury. Morgan Moses is questionable. Shash Surratt is questionable. Solomon Thomas is questionable. Ajayi Vera-Tucker is questionable. And that seems to be covering all the questionable players. So the Jets obviously are a lot more injured than the Cardinals. So thankfully the Cardinals, haven't had to deal with a ton of injury bugs lately. But, with even with all the injuries, the Jets still, I would say, have a better team as of right now versus the Cardinals. The only reason I say that is because, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, they have Devontae Adams, they have Garrett Wilson, they have Tyron Smith, all these players that make an impact on the team. Breece Hall, another great example. But, looking at Aaron Rodgers' stats this season, he really has not played spectacular. 15 touchdowns in the league, that's really good. 7 interceptions in the league, that's not so great with a QBR of 53.2. That's not the greatest. But you look at the teams Aaron Rodgers has played so far. You play the Niners week 1, Tennessee week 2, Patriots week 3, Denver week 4, Vikings week 7 or 6, no, week 5, Bills week 6, Steelers week 7, New England week 8, and the Houston Texans week 9. So they have a lot of tough competitions. Obviously, they did get smoked in the 49ers week 1, which we did beat. Barely beat the Titans week 2. Smoked the Patriots week 3. Barely lost to Denver week 4 with, an upsetting loss there. Lose to the Vikings in London week 5. Lose to Buffalo by 3 because neither team could kick a field goal in week 6. You lose to the Steelers, which defense is really great, and not to mention, the Vikings, the Bills, and the Broncos all having really great defenses. You lose to the Patriots week 8, and, that's a pretty upsetting loss because, Patriots are just in a rebuild mode. They don't really have anyone spectacular on a team, and you lose by 3 points there. And then you go in to beat the Houston Texans week 9 on Thursday Night Football on Halloween. And, I feel like this Jets team is definitely clicking. But like I said earlier, I am happy that we did trade for Baron Browning, the linebacker from the Denver Broncos. I feel like he will be an immediate, presence on this defense, pass rushing, dropping the coverage. His IQ is definitely there. I know a lot of people were upset, like I mentioned earlier, that we picked him up, but for the price we have him, it's a low risk, high reward kind of thing where it's like, if he does play spectacular, cool, we can re-sign him. If he doesn't, no big deal. It was a 6th round pick. We can move on from that, do whatever we want to. But I feel like Baron Browning, getting, a fresh start in Arizona on a team that desperately needs edge rushers, he will definitely have an impact on this team. And I'm excited to see what his future has in store for him with the Arizona Cardinals. But, you go on to next week. Obviously, another really, really big matchup. This one especially just because, a win here gives us about a 54% chance of making the playoffs. A loss here gives us about a 30-something% chance at not making the playoffs. So things are definitely going to be in our favor to hopefully, do something spectacular. But Arizona Cardinals do come out, to open up on Sunday night. The odds were definitely in the Arizona Cardinals' favor, -1.5 to lead against the Jets. That has since changed. The Cardinals are now +1.5 underdogs. And I think a big part of that is just seeing the connection between Aaron Rodgers and his team now that everything is happening. Obviously, another big thing is, injuries with Jalen Thompson and, James Conner, who's, getting bumps and bruises. But, it's football. It's week 10. Cardinals haven't had a bye week yet. Jets haven't had a bye week yet. So both teams are, a little banged up. They're both, not 100% healthy. But you look at the stats. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been getting it done. Kyler Murray, not so much. But, again, Cardinals' offense has been running more run heavy with James Conner, Trey Benson, with those running backs, trying to rely more, on the heavy down plays and stuff like that. Breece Hall, 502 yards, 3 touchdowns. James Conner, 664 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. McBride is the leading receiving yards for the Cardinals. Garrett Wilson is the leading receiving yards for the Jets. Trey McBride, 45 receptions, 481 yards. Garrett Wilson, 60 catches for 663 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's definitely going to be a tough game, going into this week. And, just looking at the stats, Budda Baker is going to have to be an impact player. Kaiser White obviously is going to be an impact player this week. I do really feel that Baron Browning is going to be an impact player this week. I feel like he will, hold his own this week. Kyler Murray will have to step up with his passing presence, which he's been doing a great job. On the season, almost 1,800 yards, 170 completions with 150 attempts, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. This is absolutely insane from Kyler Murray. Usually at this point in the season, he has maybe 13, 14 touchdowns and he has like 5 or 6 picks. For 11-3 ratio, that's insane. And, the offensive line has been absolutely spectacular besides last week, giving up 3 sacks. They went practically the whole month of October without giving up a sack on Kyler Murray. So that's phenomenal for the defenses that we played. Again, We played against the Chargers, played against the 49ers, played against the Packers, played against, the Bears, played against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, all those teams have really, really tough defenses, and the fact that Kyler Murray and the offensive line could hold it together and not allow Kyler Murray to get sacked as often in the month of October and just in general. I mean, Kyler Murray's only been sacked 14 times this season. That's insane to even think about. And, Kyler Murray, running the ball, 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Conner, making his impact on the ground and through the air, 167 yards through the air with 19 catches. McBride, Harrison, they've been definitely getting it done. Harrison, obviously he's been hit and miss, but, it depends a lot on how the offensive scheme goes. Obviously last week we saw Marvin Harrison make that one catch and fumble it right away. Rookie pains, it is what it is. I think he'll learn better. It's just one of those things, getting more game time experience. But with Marvin Harrison, I mean, this is going to be a game where he has to make a big step up, especially against this Jets offense. I mean, he's going to be going against Sauce Gardner, who is a multi-year Pro Bowler. Do I think Sauce Gardner is the best corner in the league? Absolutely not. He's a product of the holding merchant, and we see this so often. Sauce Gardner goes out there and tries to hold his defenders, and he gets called a lot for holding penalties, this and that. Michael Wilson, is going to have to step up a little bit. Trey McBride, especially with CJ Mosley being out, he's going to have to make a huge step up this week, being able to go out there and do his thing. Hopefully he can get, a touchdown reception this week against this defense, because that would be huge. Obviously, the Jets are going to be scheming for stopping the run after the onslaught we had last week for the Bears with just the rushing game, 200 rushing yards on the game. So they're going to be scheming a lot around James Conner, a lot around Trey Benson, Amari DiMercato. I mean, all those players are going to be scheming around just to prevent, those players from having big rushing games like they did last week. I think Kyler Murray, rushing the ball is going to be a huge impact going into this week. I mean, we've seen the stats. Kyler Murray is a great quarterback rushing player, especially against this Jets defense. Quentin Williams is obviously going to be, a big player we're going to have to watch after. Quincy Williams is another big name. Just being able to find those openings, I feel like we're going to have to really scheme what this defense does. And, we've seen, obviously the Jets have played a lot of tough teams. So going against this Cardinals team that, like I said, was ranked worst in the league for third down defense, and having to go against, a veteran quarterback, a veteran receiver, probably both Hall of Fame quarterback and receiver. But for both of them to be playing against this Cardinal team, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup. And, just watching how both these teams play, it's going to be a hard-fought game start to finish. And I know a lot of people are like, well, it's the Jets. Aaron Rodgers has been playing. No, I mean, you put yourself in a game where you're playing against a veteran Hall of Fame quarterback. It doesn't matter how good he's playing. He's going to know what to do against the defense. And, I do think, Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gann are going to be able to scheme something up to maybe confuse Aaron Rodgers and, put some pressure on him. But at the end of the day, it comes down to pass rush and run defense. And how quickly is that pass rush going to get home to Aaron Rodgers, or how quickly is that run defense going to shut down Breece Hall and Braylon Allen from, stopping him getting 4 or 5 yards of play. And with that, I mean, those are huge, huge tasks for Rallis and Gannon. Another big thing with Petzing, he's going to have to focus on what this defense does well and how to scheme around that. I mean, like I said, obviously special team hasn't been doing great, but this defense has definitely been holding their own. They've been doing their thing. They currently have 31 sacks in the team right now. Obviously, the big player is Quentin Williams. But still, I mean, there's going to have to be a lot of scheming around this team in particular. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Isaiah Oliver, Javon Kinlaw. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a tough matchup, and I would hate for the Cardinals to lose to this Jets team, but this Jets team definitely is better than their record shows, and I think a lot of people, are looking at this Jets team and saying, well, if they lose to the Cardinals, it is what it is because they suck. But at the same time, if the Cardinals do lose, it's like, well, the Jets are the Jets. They have a good team. The Cardinals just suck. It's not a win-win situation for us to, give NFL fans, the rights to say, hey, the Cardinals are actually good this year. But in time, I hope, the Cardinals can pull through and get that respect from players. But this week, I mean, it's a lose-lose situation. If we beat them, if we lose to them. But this is a huge game on the line. And like I said, I mean, you look at this game, I think, will determine if the Cardinals are a playoff team. And I'm not saying, the Jets are a playoff team, but they are definitely built like a playoff team with all the talent they have, with all the players that they have, with the schedule that they've had so far, the teams that they face. We have not really had a tough challenge, I should say, defensively on our offense. I mean, you could argue the Lions, you could argue, the Packers, but we haven't faced, a top 5 defense. We haven't faced the Steelers, we haven't faced, the Broncos, we haven't faced we faced the Bills week 1, but, the team was kind of new chemistry. But you look at that team and you look at the Jets, the Cardinals, have the talent. It's just getting it on the field and getting it done. And I feel like this game, and we've seen the chemistry the last couple of weeks. The chemistry is there. We know they can get it done. It's just, how is everything going to click this week for the Cardinals to pull off an upset against the Jets? And this week, like I said, I mean, it's a huge week, and I know I keep saying that, but you look at this team, and you look at the highs and the lows for the Jets, you look at the highs and the lows for the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals consistently have heart. They consistently fight to the end. They consistently do whatever it takes to make the teams uncomfortable. I don't think the Jets have that. I think, once they get to a certain point, they kind of just give up. And I think that's the only thing that the Cardinals have that the Jets don't. And with that, that could be the decider for if the Cardinals are going to beat the Jets this week. I don't think the talent for either team is great. I mean, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is having statistically the worst year of his career. And, Devontae Adams still getting with the Jets and all this. But both teams, obviously the Jets have more talent than the Cardinals, but the Cardinals have more heart than the Jets do. So I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to who's willing to put more effort into winning this game. And for the Cardinals, I mean, this is a huge deal. You're number 1 in the NFC West right now. You don't want to lose that spot. You have a chance to make the playoff. You don't want to give that up. And, you want to prove to fans, you want to prove to players that this is the destination you want to come to next year to have a chance to win the Super Bowl. So I do think the Cardinals are going to win this week. Just with everything stacked against them, I do think, the Cardinals are going to be able to pull an upset. A lot of people have been, doubting the Cardinals. I, have given them, some doubt against some of the games, and they've definitely pulled through. But this week, I do think the Cardinals will upset the Jets. And I do think Chad Ryland will have another game winner. Just with how he's been playing. I do think Kyler Murray's going to have a great game. I do think he's going to have some turnovers, though. I do think they're not going to rely heavy on James Conner just because the Jets defense is going to rely a lot on James Conner. We're going to focus more on Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch. Those are the players that we are going to look for going into this game against the Jets. And with that, that's pretty much going to end this week. Like I said, it's going to be a big week for the Cardinals. A lot of, things playing into this game, and I do think the Cardinals will pull it off. But like I said, this is the Red Phantom. Check out Twitter, check out Instagram, check out, X, TikTok, whatever the case may be. I kind of posted shade at the Bears fans last week. All the Bears fans were kind of going at me, but you know me, I take it, show them the stats, move on, and continue on with my day because last week was awesome. Last week was fantastic, and I'm happy to go into this week upsetting the New York Jets. So let's get it. This is going to end this week's podcast, so I'll see you guys all next week. This is the Red Phantom signing out.